All right, guys, we're going live. I literally just left the gym, so if I look a little crazy, that is why. Um, yeah, I mean, how beautiful is the day, though? So beautiful. So, okay, I might have to put my hair up because the wind is winding. Today, we're going to be chatting about debunking tracking your macros. Yeah, the hair is going up. Um, I'm gonna invite Coach Crystal in, and then we'll just get it on and poppin'. Let's go ahead and invite her. So yeah, guys, if you have thought about, yeah, there she is. You look so
Hi,
pretty. I love it.
Queen. So do you.
Oh, I just left the gym. I'm
Oh,
like sweaty as fuck.
and I'm sweaty as hell from yoga, so twins.
Beautiful. Well, what I was just talking about is I feel like a lot of people want to kind of get into tracking their food so they can
Mhm.
understand how to fuel themselves properly. I feel like there was like a big wave of like just like misconceptions around tracking food in general that I was just like hearing a lot in the online space that I have never experienced like when we got it like when if it fits your macros like was first coming out and like it was like the thing to help
Mhm.
you break free from binge eating because you could eat whatever you wanted type of thing, but
Mm.
obviously you have to have a balance now with gut health.
Right.
So what me and Coach Crystal want to talk about today for those, watching the replay or listening live is just kind of like debunking misconceptions around tracking food. So that way you can gain a better understanding of your intake and then eventually be able to maintain your desired physique eating intuitively, right? Because that is the end goal is
Right.
for you to eat intuitively, not to track
Mhm.
forever. And the
Yeah.
beauty of tracking is we're tracking to make sure we're eating enough, not to restrict.
Right.
So, right off the bat, like, what is like the first misconception that you tend to hear in the online space or from women in general, or even your own misconceptions, when it comes to tracking macros? And maybe, yeah, we'll start there. And then I feel like we need to hit on even what is macros for those who are like, what is that even?
Right.
So, yeah, what are like some of the first misconceptions like you tend to hear?
The most common, I'm pretty sure you hear it all the time, is that it's very restrictive. Oh, I feel like I'm restricting myself, and it becomes so overwhelming because it's so restricting, and I feel like I can't eat what I want to eat. But that's actually the complete
Hmm.
opposite. The beauty of tracking is actually that it's not restrictive because you can see what you're eating and
Right.
actually fit what you enjoy while eating still quality foods. I feel like everybody just has a very misconception that it's restrictive and they think it's another form of like a diet instead of thinking of it as like a tool to help you learn about your body and fueling your body.
Right. Yeah. And to kind of bounce off that, like the people who tend to say it's restrictive, I feel like it's like overwhelming. It's either two things. They worked with a coach in the past who did not set them up for success.
Yep.
So it's usually like no shade to bodybuilding coaches because I used to compete in bodybuilding and there's a lot of amazing bodybuilding coaches. However, some of y'all be cheap as fuck and go to these cheap ass bodybuilding or whatever coaches
Right.
like 150, 135 a month. They give you these macros, they give you 1200, 1400 calories, this fucking meal plan that's like egg whites and tilapia and chicken breast. And then you wonder why you feel restricted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about reprogramming that.
Mm-hmm.
That is one experience. And then the other thing that I usually see with women who say that is they try to do it on their own. And because they're trying to do it on their own, they either use a calculator or they set themselves up on these really low calories.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember when I tried to track on my own, I would always put myself on like 1600 calories. Like 1600 was like the magic number for some reason. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would go over my food and I would be like, "Ugh, I just want to like eat what I want." So I wasn't doing things the right way. I had no, I was like YouTube knowledge, you know what I
Right.
mean? So when I started to work with a coach that I trusted and she was knowledgeable and she also struggled with binge eating, it set me up for success because I wasn't being really restricted in that way.
Right.
Why do you like, what is your experience like when clients do actually start to work with you?
Mhm.
And, I'm already thinking of some on the top of my head, but like they do start to work with you.
Mhm.
Like, how does that kind of change for them? Like, maybe they were like worried about it. And
Mhm.
then I guess what have you noticed is like the biggest difference between their mindset before thinking that tracking equals restriction, and then they work with you and us that embody her, and then it's like the complete opposite. Like, what is the difference?
Right. Like at first, they'll come like, I've tried it before. I don't like it. It's too complicated. It's restrictive. Like I just don't feel comfortable. And I'm like, okay. Obviously, I don't go from you not knowing and feeling super overwhelmed to just throwing calories, protein, carbs, and fats, which are your macros,
Right.
for those who don't know, immediately at your face if you don't feel comfortable. And we slowly start to integrate at least calories and protein and make you feel comfortable in that sense. But the biggest thing that I've noticed from making that transition from being super uncomfortable to slowly starting to track your macros is that they start to understand their body more and they start to see that they're fueling themselves and they start to realize that I'm actually not restricting myself. I'm actually learning about my body and I'm learning how to feel my body properly. And it's actually pretty cool to realize that this isn't restricting me and it's not something that makes me feel like it's another fad diet. Makes me realize that I'm just learning more about my body and learning what works for me and finding the enjoyment in the process of it, which I think is very beautiful because, like we just said, it's a very big misconception. People think it's
Wait, Crystal, can you hear me? There's this like weird sound. Can anybody else hear that who's watching? It's like a buzzing sound. I see three people in the. Okay, you're back.
it's my headphones.
Oh, okay.
Beats are failing me every time. This is why we don't do
Yeah.
beats.
But yeah,
Wait,
like you were saying,
what was the last thing you heard?
you said, you were saying, yes, I hear it. Okay, cool. You were saying how, they actually start to learn about their
Hmm.
body and, they actually start to see that it's not restrictive and they're actually learning how to fuel themselves. And then it started to buzz out.
Yeah. And so they start to learn how to fuel their body and they start to realize that instead of it being another fad diet that they don't want to be a part of, that it's actually something that is not a fad diet. And they learn to actually love it and enjoy the process of it, which I think is beautiful because it's to start off with like the negativity of, I don't want to do it, I don't like it, it's too complicated, it's too restrictive, to actually coming to peace with it and realizing it's a stepping stone into having food freedom is a beautiful thing.
Mm. Yes, I love that. And I love how you said it's a stepping stone to having food freedom because, and then also how you said it's not another form of fad dieting, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a skill. It's a skill that's going to set you up for success to be able to eat intuitively and maintain your desired physique.
Right.
Most women try to start off eating intuitively, which is all fine and dandy. Everybody has different goals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, how can you eat intuitively if you don't know really your body and nutrition, right? Every day is different. Every day you're eating random things. Some weeks you meal prep, some weeks you don't. Some mornings you have breakfast, other times you have dinner at 10 p.m. And it's like you're not giving your body the consistency and the structure that it needs to actually then be able to be intuitive with your body,
Right.
right? And so another thing you said was it's not another form of fad dieting. No, the leaf blower is coming over here. Go away. No, I'm kidding. Um, it's not another form of fad dieting. It's a skill that's going to set you up for
Right.
success, right? So what's the difference between fad diets and then like a skill like tracking your macros that will then allow you to then eventually maintain, eat intuitively, be able to look at a plate and know exactly how much protein, carbs, and like what you need to build your physique. Like, what are
Right.
fat diets and how is that different from tracking macros?
Right. So fad diets is very plain and simple. It's like you're doing a keto diet, you're doing the carnivore diet, it's something that's for a short period of time so you can lose X amount of weight. And it's not something that's actually sustainable for long-term results. It's a quick fix that you end up just gaining everything right back. Whereas, so sorry. Whereas tracking, like you said, it's a skill that you take and then you learn how to fuel your body to the point that when you are actually able to intuitively eat, you're able to look at a plate and be like, okay, this is definitely 4 ounces of protein. This is about 3 ounces of carbs. And you're able to actually eyeball your food and be like, I know how much I'm getting in roughly for the most part, where you're able to eat and not feel like, oh, I don't know how much I'm eating. I'm just putting in whatever into my body and then feel the need to go into another fad diet because you don't know how to properly fuel your body.
Right, right, right. Explained that so perfectly. So, fad diet is I'm gonna do this for X period of time to lose X amount of weight. It's a quick fix. It's a short term
Right.
fix. Um, Even challenges, right? Like I wouldn't say that they're a form of fad dieting. However, I do think that when you want some like shiny object syndrome,
Right.
right? The the basics get boring. Consistency is kind of mundane sometimes. So then we look
Right.
for these like short term things, and that's okay. I love a good hi, little baby. Um, um, to be able to lose X amount of weight, but if you want to actually learn how to fuel your body, like Coach Crystal said, and make it a lifestyle and be like these fitness influencers online who are having all these balanced meals and they just look like in shape, they didn't just do that just eating intuitively, unless they popped out the womb with a body.
Right.
Okay. So, um, learning to track my food actually supported me in overcoming the under eating and overeating cycle. I think a lot of women, they know how to make healthy choices. I think most general population knows how to make healthy choices.
Right.
Even most people know how to lose weight. But to actually achieve the body composition and the ideal physique you want, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to take a little bit more dialing in.
Right.
Which brings me to my next misconception and thing I want to talk about with you is I will sometimes hear from women, well, I got this far without tracking. Like, I don't really see why I would need to track now if I was able to lose 20 pounds or like do whatever without tracking, right? Which is totally valid.
Mm-hmm.
However, something I always say is what got you from level 1 to level 2 is not what's going to be what gets you from level 2 to level 5,
Facts.
right? So, um, I would also say it depends on your goals, right? But what would you kind of say to someone who's thinking that, but their goal, because if you're listening to this and you're like, that's me, but your goal is literally just health, you don't really, there's not really a need unless you really want to take it to the next level. Island Kaya, unless you want to take it to the next level in your understanding of food,
Right.
right? But what would you say to someone who's like, well, I lost, like I was able to get here just eating mindfully,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a lot of things in my head, but what would kind of be your experience with that? With maybe they've lost weight, but they're not toned. They don't have the body composition they want. They're basically a smaller version of the physique that they were
Right.
at, um, you know, 30, 50 pounds ago, but they're not toned. They don't have the muscle tone. They don't have the sexy back muscles. They don't have the waist and the health and the energy that they want. And they're
Right.
kind of like questioning if they should track, if they were able to get to XYZ point,
Right.
eating mindfully, which is usually like, we know what that means. So, yeah, kind of share your thoughts.
One, I would definitely say that's amazing. It's great that you're able to do that. There is going to be a certain point where you are going to plateau and you're not going to see the skill drop anymore because your body is one, get already getting used to mindful eating.
Right.
And two is in order for you to actually gain muscle and actually change your body composition, you need to know how much you're intaking. You could be mindful eating and probably be eating like 90 grams of protein a day or even less because I feel like a lot of women actually fail to eat enough protein. It's easy for them to eat a lot of carbs and fats and super easy to not eat enough protein. So You want to build muscle and have that toned body and build your glutes, but you're getting like 70 grams of protein a day and you're eating like 150 grams of carbs and like 70 grams of fat, and you're not going to build a body that way. Realistically speaking, your body's not going to actually change. So if you want to actually see your body change, build muscle, get that toned look that you're looking for, which is so you're just building muscle, is you need to know how much food you're intaking. And you can't be intaking 1,200 calories and expecting to change your entire body composition. You're going to need to eat a lot more than that. And mindful eating more than likely means you're eating healthy, but you're under eating a lot more than you are to be able to fuel your body properly.
Right. 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. Daniel said in the chat, is it possible to mindfully still have a six pack? No. Is this mainly for women? Does it also work for men? I would say that this is mainly for women, but I would say a lot of
Right.
the definitely can apply to men. I think most men still struggle to eat enough protein, undereat.
Right.
I think most men are on a lot of the same boat as women. Like, you need to be tracking your intake to understand how much you're intaking to achieve the body composition you want. The same way,
Right.
if you have a financial goal and you're intuitively trying to get to your money goal, yeah, good luck, right? Like, you're going to keep going into the same things.
Yeah.
Um, I love the honesty. It's just, it is what it is. Um, so going back to what you said, Crystal, around it's amazing that you were able to get there, which I totally agree. But like you are going to hit a plateau and you are going to want to, like you said, most women just aren't eating enough to fuel their body,
Mhm.
or they are, yeah, like your what you're doing has to match your goal at the end
Right.
of the day, right? Like you
Mhm.
have to know what your goal is, and it has to be like how much of a priority is that for you.
Right.
And we need to set expectations on what that requires to get there, right? If your goal is to fuel your body properly, understand what your body needs, understand your body's metabolism, have more
Right.
consistent hunger cues, lose fat, build muscle, tone up, get that toned look, right?
Mhm.
Then that is what that takes. And it can be
100%.
a really enjoyable process. I think that's another misconception as well that I want to ask you is like the misconception that it's like this dreading, complex, overwhelming process.
Mhm.
And I do want to set expectations that maybe in the beginning of there is a learning curve, right?
Absolutely.
Um, oh, we got some good questions in the chat here. Um, but what do you notice, Crystal, is like the difference between somebody who is having a not fun time with tracking their
Mhm.
food and the difference between someone who's having like a really fun time tracking their food? What is like the main differences? And then we can answer some questions.
The main difference I would say is being open to it. I feel like when you have such a negative mindset towards something and you're just gonna continue just to spew negativity towards it, like, no, like I don't want it, it's restrictive, it's overwhelming, I don't care for it, you're gonna have a very shitty time tracking macros and trying to learn to love it. Opposed to somebody who's like, I haven't had the best experience with it, but I'm willing to be open-minded and try it again with a better mindset and actually enjoy the process. And I feel like once you let go of that like heaviness towards it and just allow yourself to really learn and understand the process of tracking macros, it just becomes so much easier and enjoyable. There's so much enjoyment in it. And then you're able to actually see the changes in your body. And as you start to see the changes in your body, you start to realize, like, okay, maybe it really isn't as bad as I thought it was. So I definitely think it's just more so of a mindset thing. When you're negative about it and you choose to be negative, you're not going to enjoy it as somebody who's more open minded to changing and making that shift.
Right. I think that's a huge, huge thing to point out. And I've noticed it with our clients as well, the ones that really enjoy and they thrive and they're hitting their goals. It's like they are leaning into that growth mindset, that
Right.
open mindset. They're asking you questions. They're asking me questions. They're, you know, looking up things like new recipes and
Hmm.
applying the things. And oh my God, I have 30 grams of carbs left. Like, ooh, like how can I get in more food? And
Right.
they're almost seeing it as like a game
Hmm.
versus someone who is like, yeah, like complaining or having a fixed mindset. It's like,
Right.
This is why I always ask people when qualifying them for our program is like, are you open and willing to learn how to track your food? Not
Right.
all of our clients start off tracking. Some of them start off with meal photos. Some of them start off with nutrition habits to check off in the app. Some of them start off with protein and calories. But eventually, if you
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you're joining because you also want like progress physically
Right.
too, and to understand your body. And for us to do that, we need to understand your intake. And for us to do that, we need to track our intake.
Right.
Now, what's great is that we do give our clients a unique nutrition module course. It's like a course with like modules that our clients are able to really do step by step. Step one, here's how to read nutrition labels. Step two, here's how to use a food scale easily. Because some of the way people use food scales is like, that is so complicated. No, do it this way.
Right.
And the other thing is like pre-logging your food, right? Not tracking as you go. I find the difference between someone who's having a really annoying time with tracking is they're not planning their food ahead of time.
Yeah.
They're waking up, they don't really have an idea of what they're going to eat. They somewhat have an idea of what they're going to eat. And three, they're tracking as they go throughout the day, or they're waiting until the end of the day to track in all their food.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Nobody wants to fucking do that. Okay? Unless that works for you and you like that, cool. The people that I find have more success with it is they do pre-plan, they pre-log their food, and they get to be on automatic. They don't got to think about what they're eating in the day because they've
Right.
already pre-logged and pre-planned. Um, I'm gonna answer let's answer some questions, and then we can go into my last thing that I want to talk about, which is the misconception that I always hear from people is like overwhelming themselves and overthinking. And the misconception is that they have to track every little thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's this mindset of like, "Oh, I don't feel like tracking every little thing." You're not tracking every little thing. And so, what we'll get into is what we are tracking and what we don't have our clients track, which makes it so much easier because I think people think they got to track their herbs and this fucking seasonings and like literally every little thing, and they overcomplicate it. And like, what do I do if I make something that's mixed all together? Like, those are the things that we work through with our clients, but we'll give you all the tea today. So Ashley asked, what can I do when I struggle with eating enough protein or just eating enough in general? It feels like too much food in a day, especially after gastric bypass surgery. So the first thing that I would say, and I want to definitely tie you into this, Crystal, is one, are you tracking your food right now or not? Because I need to know if you're trying to track your food and it feels like too much food, or you're not tracking your food and it feels like too much food. Because you saying it feels like too much food is again relative to how much you're actually intaking.
Right.
Because I've had people say it feels like too much food and they're eating like fucking 1,000 calories a day. And I know with gastric bypass surgery, your
Yes.
appetite, like
Right.
it's yeah, it's very small. So this is something where we would have to gain a lot more insight. You can DM me or Coach Crystal and like we can book a call to kind of dive deeper. But what would you recommend, Crystal, for someone who has got gastric bypass surgery? They feel like it's too much food and they're struggling to eat enough, which is common with people who have gotten that. You're
Right.
trying to. Okay, Ashley, thanks for sharing. Yeah, what would you say?
Um, It's about just slowly increasing, especially because your stomach is so much smaller and this is a new adjustment for you. You kind of basically need to relearn your body and your stomach. So, finding a happy medium with how much protein you think might be ideal per meal, whether it's 20 just to start off with, see how your body feels with that, and then gradually go from there. And not doing so crazy, like, for example, like me and Lexi who eat like 35, 40 grams of protein a meal, it's probably not going to be ideal for you. So it's just about starting off slowly, readjusting to learning your stomach, readjusting to learning your body and seeing how much you can eat all at once without it being too much. Because obviously, I know people who have gotten the gastric sleeve before, and if you eat too much, you do get very sick, where it can end up, obviously, you end up wanting to throw up all your food. So we don't want to get you to that point. So it's about basically starting very small and increasing from there once you find comfortability with that number.
Right. Yep. Totally agree. So yeah, Ashley, um, you said you're trying to, yeah, this take Crystal's advice, start with just like 15 to 20 grams of protein per meal,
Yeah.
chop it up very small, and just try to relearn your body, right? Like your body's a lot different from before, and you have to just kind of relearn. Would definitely love to kind of get a better idea of what you've been doing up until this point and how long you've kind of been navigating this to see if and how we can support. So if that's something that feels in alignment, you can just send me or Coach Crystal a DM after this live, and we can kind of just DM back and forth and kind of see where you're at and how we can support further. Sound good? Um, Daniel asks, hot take, should men work out glutes? Duh. A man with glutes is a man we love. Okay. I guess understanding, but they just can't be bigger than mine. um, and then, yeah, more whole foods, definitely. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah, say like 3 to 4 bites, and I'm automatically full for hours. Okay, 3 to 4 bites, and then full for
Usually how it
hours.
is.
Yeah, uncomfortable most of the day at first. On the liquid diet, it was a lot easier to get my protein intake, but after starting. Yeah, Ashley, go ahead and DM us so we can just like go ahead and, because there's a lot, like, there, everybody's so individual. There's so much we have to kind of go into.
Agreed.
And yeah, we're not going to be able to get into on this live, but yeah, definitely send us a DM. Um, what was I gonna say? So the final misconception as we wrap up today's live is the misconception that like you have to track every little thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the overthinking around, well, I don't know every little thing that's in this food, and what if I go out to eat? And it's like we get too ahead of ourselves. And thank
Yes.
God I'm a type B personality because I went into tracking like shit, we're gonna figure it out. You know what I mean? But for our
Right.
type A girlies that are like 10 miles ahead,
Right.
we don't have our like you're tracking your macros.
Right.
You're not tracking every little thing.
Right.
Your macros are your protein, carbs, fats. Macro means large. These are the nutrients that our body needs and digests in the largest amounts: protein, carbs, fats.
Right.
Then we have our micronutrients. Micro means small, small nutrients, vitamins and minerals. Cool. So if you look at a plate, you're tracking the protein, the carbs, the fats are the oils, right? Fats are double the amount of calories per gram, so we need to get in fats. Fats are
Right.
super important. But you're not tracking herbs, you're not tracking seasonings, you're not tracking zero or like stupidly low calorie things. Like I don't have clients track, like ketchup, you know what I mean? Unless they're like in the steepness of a deficit and like you're eating fucking pounds of ketchup, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
Coach Crystal, like I don't have my clients track veggies, you know what I mean? Or low carb fruit like berries. High carb
Right.
fruit, yes, like mangoes or bananas. Like we want to track those in. But this is
Right.
what we teach our clients when they join our program. It's like, what are we tracking? What we're not tracking.
Right.
So yeah, like what are we tracking and what are we not tracking? And what advice would you give to someone who is getting way ahead of themselves when it comes to like, what do I do when I eat out? And what do I do if I cook something that's mixed all together? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like what would be your advice to them?
Mm-hmm.
And what are we tracking? What are we not tracking?
Right. So one, I only have my clients track their main things. So your main source of protein, main source of carb, oils. I have all my clients not cooking oils because then you add more oils on top of it. So cooking spray and you add your fats afterwards.
Same.
I don't have them track, like you said, any sauces. I do not have you track any spices. Bitch, spice your shit the fuck up. We don't eat blend chicken over here. That's one. You'll never catch me eating no blend chicken. I'm sorry. Even on prep,
No.
I made sure I had sodium
Me
in there.
too.
Ain't no way. So you're not tracking spices. Same thing like micros like spinach, lettuce, things like we're not tracking that. Those are not things that need to be tracked. Just your main source of on your plate that you know are heavy carbs, fats, and protein are going to need to be tracked. I do have a lot of clients who are like, "Oh, I'm eating a whole bunch of food mixed in together." My biggest thing, because I just started to learn how to track macros quite a few years ago, and I wasn't like the biggest expertise like Miss Lexi girl here, but is making it a meal. If you're going to cook in
Right.
bulk, making it a meal so it's easy for you to portion it out individually, making specific serving sizes for yourself. And even if it's for you and your family, you're able to divvy it up to be able to see how much it is per serving. So
Right.
that's my best advice if you're cooking in a big pot of stuff. And for eating out, I don't know about you, but I do this even before I track macros. I love to see the menu beforehand to see what is on the menu and then check on my Fitness Pal if the restaurant is on the menu. And if it's not something that seems pretty easy, that might be a little bit over your caloric intake because you rather overestimate than underestimate because 9 times out of 10, what you're eating out is a lot more caloric and higher in macros than you actually think. So I'd rather you overestimate than underestimate.
Yep. Hit the nail on the head. So again, we're not tracking everything Coach Crystal said, at least our clients. I know you mentioned like sauces or dressings. I will say, this also makes
Dressings, yes. Sorry.
dressing. Yes. No, no, no,
Dressings
no,
are
no.
really high in fat.
Yeah. But it also made me think about things that are not free fucking calories either.
Right.
Right. So I think also there's like, you pendulum swing to the super type B girlies who, like the type A girlies are like, am I making sure? Da, 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 da. And we're like, chill, you're good. The type
Right.
B girlies are like, oh, that's good. Oh, like if you guys watch like my meal prep vlog, I'm like 80 grams of lentils, 86, close enough. And I'm like, that's fine. And it's like, no, bitch, it depends on your goals. But it's like, there's also shit that's not just free calories, guys. Like, yes, we're all about balance. But we also gonna fucking keep it real.
Right.
Alcohol's not free calories. Tequila is not 0 calories, babes. Okay. It's 7 calories per gram. And I know I remember my coach, I was like, wait, I was like, tequila's not 0 calories. She's like, no. I was like, oh, I thought I was being like, I thought that's why I was waking up like all skinny in the morning. She's like, bitch, you're dehydrated. I'm like, oh.
Right.
So I think that's a
That's so
big thing.
funny.
Is like, these things are not free calories either. And there are things we want to be mindful of, like creamers and dressings, like those things. But they're
Right.
super easy to track, guys. Like, so easy. Stop overcomplicating it. Um, Work with us so you can just make it easier.
Right.
Okay. Um, and yeah, there was like one last thing I wanted to ask. I don't know, Coach Crystal, is there any other things that you feel like should be talked about, maybe even around like mindset, or I think something you said around like, you know, for me, what comes up is like there's seasons in life and there's seasons in your health and fitness goals.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's something you want to expand on is like, if you have a physique goal, you also want to get in shape, you also want to get healthy. Like, how does someone know that it is the right time for them to start to get into, tracking and weighing their food and understanding their macros more and understanding their body? And maybe even kind of share the steps that we take our clients through to get started with tracking, which we do not use calculators for our clients.
Mm-mm.
So if you guys are going online and I had a call the other day with a girl and she was saying, I do a calculator, but it just feels like too much protein and like blah, blah, blah. So how do we get our clients started with tracking their food? And how does someone know that it's time and that they're ready to take that next step?
So to start off with how you're ready, how you know you're ready to take that next step, I would say would be if you feel like you have lost the weight that you wanted to lose by eating mindfully, kind of like the example that we gave earlier, but you actually want to change your body composition and grow muscle and go to the gym and actually train. I feel like that's when you know that it's time for you to actually eat enough and learn how to track your macros and learn what macros actually are. Just because I'm thinking about it from another standpoint, but I feel like if you have already like lost the weight and you just did it with cardio and just eating cleaner and you're kind of learning about different types of like foods, feel like at that point you should know when to convert to tracking macros to actually change your body composition. And the transition that we normally do with our clients, like a lot of the times if they feel super overwhelmed with tracking macros, we'll start them off, like Lexi said, with just meal photos or nutritional habits. And then once they feel comfortable, I don't throw them in just like, okay, enjoy, start tracking everything if they don't feel comfortable with it. I'm like, all right, let's start with calories and protein. Let's see how you feel with that. Let's see if, like, once I feel like you're consistent with hitting at least calories and protein and you feel comfortable with it and you're starting to actually learn how to fuel that, while adding carbs and fats. So it's not like we just throw it at you. We allow you to learn first with meal photos, then calories and protein, and then we show you the whole shebang. We don't do we don't do calculations on a calculator either. We start you off with a week of an observation week where we see how much you're averaging per week. And that gives me an idea of how much you're averaging. So we start you off at a specific number and then we gradually increase from there, which is a reverse diet. And that could be a conversation for another day. That's a whole other
Oh yeah,
spectrum.
that's a conversation for another day. But perfect, beautiful. Um, we know you guys got a ton of value from this, so definitely send us a DM, your takeaways if this was helpful. And we'll do more of these lives more often. And if you guys do want more support and guidance and accountability with your nutrition and tracking your macros and really reaching your ideal physique from a holistic perspective, because yes, we are here to support you in understanding your food and your body, but we're really here to meet you where you're at, right? We take a very client-centered approach, meaning we're gonna meet you where you're
Right.
at. So like what you feel comfortable with, we're gonna meet you at your edge and we're going to guide you and coach you and make sure that your nutrition and fitness should be something that is supportive to you,
Right.
not like another thing that's added onto your plate. You're busy enough, you have a lot going on. Joining a program or getting a coach shouldn't feel like another thing. It should feel like the thing that is going to set the foundation to support you further in the things that you're manifesting and building in your life. Okay, so at the end of the day, your healthiest self, your most fueled self, your hottest, healthiest self has a better career, better relationships, more money anyway. So send us a DM and we can chat more. And we'll see y'all next week because we do want to go live. Um, and we'll let y'all know what the topic is then. But yeah, happy Wednesday and thanks for being here with me, Crystal.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye, guys.